Hi, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Women Warriors, where we are learning to stay connected to Christ. I am your host, Dominique, and this is my lovely co host, Monique. And this month, we are celebrating Breast Cancer Awareness Month. It is the survivor's time to shine. And so it is with great honor that I present you all with our second annual Pink Sundays. So every Sunday this month, we are going to be doing this year an impact series. So that will be not just survivors, but people who were impacted by others' diagnosis, well, their loved ones' diagnosis
Yes.
of breast cancer. And so last year we did totally made it all about survivors. And so
Mhm.
this year we want to kind of turn it up a little bit. I think that sometimes when we are talking breast cancer, the family members can get left out. You know, the loved ones
Yeah.
that help, those survivors get through all of the surgeries and all of the chemo and radiation, their support system. So this month
Mhm.
on Woman Warriors, we are going to be shining light on those caretakers and that support system. And we are going to be giving special thanks to those people. And so today, we are just going to do a really soft introduction of Pink Sundays. So Mo and myself, or we're going to just have some dialogue. We're going to get Mo's
Yes.
perspective because she is a sister of a survivor. October
Mhm.
8th, this year, I will celebrate 4 years being cancer free. And that is a blessing. That is such a
Woo!
blessing. We celebrate every year. My sisters are so faithful in reminding me what a privilege it is to be a
Mhm.
survivor. And so I myself know very personally how important that support system is. And I myself
Mhm.
know the impact that my breast cancer had on my support system and my loved
Yeah.
ones. So we're going to go into this
Mhm.
episode just kind of shining a little bit of light on that, doing a really soft introduction. And we will be excited to feature several guests, several mighty women who have been support systems for people that they
Mhm.
love and have seen survive cancer. And some of them have not been so fortunate to see their loved one survive. So
Yeah.
we're going to get that perspective as well. But we are so excited to begin Pink Sundays this this October. And so
Mhm.
we're going to start off. I want to talk a lot about in this Pink Sunday series. I want to shine a lot of light on the healing power of Jesus Christ because I know
Mhm.
myself that had I not had that connection and knowing that Jesus is the healer, I
Mhm.
probably would have been a lot worse off in my journey with breast cancer. And so I want to start by just reading two stories. It is a little bit lengthy, but I do want to read these two stories because they are a testament to how Jesus was a healer then and he still is a healer now. And
Yep.
so, in case you are not familiar with Jesus being a healer and a couple of the stories in the Bible that attest to that, we are going to go over just two very short stories about
Mhm.
two different people in the Bible who are a testament of Jesus's healing power. And so we're going to go to verses Mark 5 verses 25, and we're going to read through verse 43. And so it is a little bit lengthy, but I'm going to try to, keep it quick, but
Yeah. Yeah.
also
Yeah.
I want you guys to be able to get the context of Jesus being a healer. And
Mhm.
so we're going to start at verse 25. Now, a certain woman had a flow of blood for 12 years and had suffered many things from many physicians. She had spent all she had and was no better, but rather grew worse. When she heard about Jesus, she came behind him in the crowd and touched his garment. For she said, "If only I may touch his clothes, I shall be made well." Immediately the fountain of blood was dried up, and she felt in her body that she was healed of the affliction. And Jesus, immediately knowing in himself that the power had gone out of him, turned around to the crowd and said, "Who touched my clothes?" But his disciples said to him, "You see the multitude thronging. You say, 'Who touched me?'" And he looked around to see her who had done this thing. But the woman, fearing and trembling, knowing what had happened to her, came and fell down before him and told the whole truth. And he said to her, I want us to mark this part right here. And he said to her, Daughter, your faith has made you well. Go in peace and be healed of your affliction. While he was still
Mm-hmm.
speaking, some came from the ruler of the synagogue's house and said, Your daughter is dead. Why trouble the teacher any further? And this is a different story. Okay, so that is the story of the woman with the issue of blood. She touches the hem of Jesus's garment and she is healed. But it is through her faith that she is healed because she believed that if she could just touch the hem of Jesus's garment,
Mm-hmm.
that he would be able to heal her. And that Jesus did do. And so, and this is a different story. While he was still speaking, some came from the ruler of the synagogue's house and said, Your daughter is dead. Why trouble the teacher any further? As soon as Jesus heard the word that was spoken, he said to the ruler of the synagogue, Do not be afraid, only believe. And we need to bookmark that as well. Do not be
Mm-hmm.
afraid, only believe. And he permitted no one to follow him except Peter, James, and John, the brother of James. And then he came to the house of the ruler of the synagogue and saw the tumult and those who wept and wailed loudly. When he came in, he said to them, Why make this commotion and weep? The child is not dead, but sleeping. And they ridiculed him. But when he had put them all outside, he took the father and the mother of the child and those who were with him, and they entered where the child was lying. Then he took the child by the hand and said to her, Talitha Kumi, which is translated as little girl, I say to you, arise. Immediately the little girl arose and walked, for she was 12 years of age, and they were overcome with great amazement. But he commanded them strictly that no one should know it, and that something should be given to her to eat. And so this is a testament of the woman with the issue of blood,
Mm-hmm.
again, who believed that because she believed that
Yes.
Jesus was a healer, she touched the hem of his garment and she was in fact healed. And then the little girl, Jairus' daughter, they thought that she was dead. They were even saying,
Yeah.
Why even go to Jesus and bother him? Your daughter is dead. And that man would not accept that. And so they go to
Mm-hmm.
Jesus, and Jesus learns of, them saying that the little girl is dead, and he goes and breathes life back into this little girl. So that is a
Mm-hmm.
second testament of Jesus's healing power. But I do
Yes.
want to go back to where he was telling the woman with the issue of blood, and he said to her, Daughter, your faith has made you well. Go in peace and be healed of your affliction. And
Mm-hmm.
so I know for myself, if I had to take this from a personal perspective and how
Mm-hmm.
these two stories pertain to breast cancer. So number one, I know that when I had breast cancer, I believed that that was the end.
Yeah.
Even though the doctors were working on me and, doing what they had to do, when I heard that diagnosis, I believed that that was the end. When you hear
Yeah.
a diagnosis of cancer, in
Right.
whatever stage it's in, you believe that that is the end. But
Mm-hmm.
I know that God was doing the same thing with me. I'm just asking me to trust in him and to have faith, and that my faith would make me well. And so I too am a testament that my faith made me well because I
Yes.
believed in the healing power of Jesus
Mm-hmm.
Christ. And maybe not even so much that I deserve to be healed. So
Mm-hmm.
I won't put it out there like that, that I believed so big, just instantly, that I would be healed. And so
Mm-hmm.
that experiencing breast cancer did teach me that I needed to take my peace and go and be healed, that I was
Yeah.
healed of my affliction. And so that story does correlate to breast cancer to me in that way. And then
Yeah.
as far as the little girl goes, I do remember when I was getting a double mastectomy and I flatlined and the doctors
Yeah.
called me dead. But God said, not yet. And so
Mm-hmm.
it may have been that I appeared to be dead to them, but he
Yeah.
says this little girl is not dead, she's sleeping. she's not
Mm-hmm.
she's not dead, she's resting. And so
Right.
that really just touched me in a healing, like Jesus is a healer kind of way as well.
Mm-hmm.
Just kind of, if I had to pick ways that those stories relate to me, those would be the ways that I pick that those stories relate to me. And so I know that Jesus was also saying, do not be afraid, only believe. And there was a point in my journey where I was more afraid than I believed. And so that really spoke to me as well, because I do remember that I distinctly said to Jesus, I'm sorry that I didn't believe more in you, in those times. And this is for anyone that could be experiencing breast cancer right now. I beg of you to trust in God, to have faith in God that He is a healer, that He has sent His Son, Jesus Christ, to also be a healer for us. And I am a true testament of Jesus being that healer. Even when people believed that I was dead, even when the doctors believed that I was dead, Jesus came and spoke life back into me. And that is, that is just a short testimony of why I do what I do as far as Pink Sundays go, because I'm no better than the woman with the issue of blood. And I'm no better than Jairus's daughter who needed healing, because people everyone thought she was dead. She was ill and everyone thought she was dead. But it goes to show the power of Jesus Christ. And I will never, that will be my biggest talking point, is the healing power of Jesus Christ when it comes to breast cancer and any other illnesses alike. I don't want you all to think that just because we are targeting breast cancer, because I'm a survivor, that this is contingent to just breast cancer. I know that when God had given me, the strength and the courage to just promote the healing that comes with Jesus Christ, it was not just based on one type of disease. He did not heal me and say, go and tell people that I am a healer based on. And so, I'm sorry, somebody kept trying to call me. So sorry about that. Mo, are you there?
Yeah. Can you see me?
Hello?
Hello?
Am I frozen?
No, you're buffering, but you're not frozen.
Okay. Mo, can you hear me?
Yeah. Hello?
I don't know if it's gonna freeze. Let's go out. Are you there?
Can you see me?
Yeah, I'm not sure what happened. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
I
No,
think
it's okay.
I think a phone call was trying to come in, and I was trying to press ignore
Yeah.
faster than it actually got through. So
It's all
sorry about
good.
that technical difficulty,
We're
guys.
back.
But we are back. And so no, healing is not based on one illness.
Yeah.
Healing is the power of Jesus Christ. Healing goes for anything. It goes for any disease, any affliction, anything that binds you, anything that keeps you from, being able to be who God has called you to be. And that's not limited to just physical sickness, spiritual sickness as well. And so if I had to attest to anything, is that I know Jesus Christ to be a healer. And that is a part of my breast cancer survival story, is that if it had not been for the power of God, I would not have survived breast cancer. And so it is my duty to continue Pink Sundays year after year to promote the healing power of Jesus Christ.
Mhm.
And so that's just a little introduction to what we're going to be talking about, healing power, promoting wellness, taking care of yourself, mammograms, all that good
All
stuff.
the words.
And so now that we have got the gist of kind of how we're going to be talking about healing and breast cancer, I want to go ahead and, talk to Mo a little bit, because she is also the sister of, she's my sister. And I,
Yours?
of course, am a survivor. Yeah, the sister of. It's me. I'm the
I'm the sister.
And so she is also someone that was very supportive in my journey and very much a support system, and continues to make a big deal about my survival post-cancer. And so, Mo, I just want to ask you a few questions as it pertains to how you were impacted by breast cancer. Even though it did not happen to you personally, I would still like to get your perspective just on the ways that breast cancer has impacted your life. Being someone who hasn't been hasn't had to be a survivor of breast cancer.
Absolutely.
Thank God. And thank God that once it happened to me, it wouldn't. I thank God for that affliction being put on me, because praise God, it will not happen to my family. And so if I had to, when it comes down to it, if I had to be the one to go through that so that none of my sisters would suffer for that, or none of our daughters would suffer, then so be it. It was good that I was afflicted. And so, Mo, can I ask you, first and foremost, how did breast cancer, or how did my having breast cancer impact your life? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think when I first initially heard that you had breast cancer, or I think I remember it starting off as you just having a lump and some discomfort, and you were worried, that it might be something traumatic or something, might be breast cancer. And I think when I initially learned of that, worry was the first thing that came to me. Worry for sure. And I say worry because we've experienced cancer in our family previously. From our father, for those that don't know, our father had colon cancer, and our paternal grandma also had breast cancer. And so when you hear the word cancer, it's kind of like a trigger, it has a completely negative impact. No matter who is afflicted by it, no matter what stage they are in, when you hear cancer, you just think of the worst. And I think at that moment, I thought of the worst. I thought that, like you, similar to you, like that's end all be all. Like someone in your family has cancer, you've had two people that have passed away from cancer, like it's over with, it's done. That was the initial thought. Just because you have those traumatic experiences, because we were very young whenever, or we were pretty young whenever those experiences happen. And so that's just what came to mind. And those things just kept going through my mind as soon as I heard about it. Like, oh no, like, it's going to be miserable for Neek, of course, and it's going to be miserable for everyone around us. And I was like, why does cancer have to afflict and damage our family so much? Like, we tried our best to, kind of pull through after our dad passed away from cancer, and after our grandma passed away from cancer. And then our aunt, she's had cancer for many years, and she's been fighting for years. And in my mind, I was thinking, Neek is so young. Like, there is no way, like, this is going to be so damaging and so traumatic. And so, of course, the first, initial thought was worry. And then the second thought was, let me try to bargain with God in a way. Because I think at that point in my life, I wouldn't say I was super, super, super lukewarm, but more like Luke. I wasn't no warm nothing. Like, I was more like Luke.
Come on.
And so, thank you. And so, I was trying to bargain with God, like, God, you know what? If you have her pull through, like, I got you. I'm gonna represent you. I'm gonna be. You've probably done that before. I think we've all had that experience before, where we try to
Yeah.
bargain with God, like, listen, if you do this for me, then I'm gonna do this for you. But that's
Yeah,
really
I'm
not
gonna make
how it
something happen
works.
for you.
Look, I'm gonna make something happen for you. Like, I'm gonna make sure I go to church all the time. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do that. I'm a really yeah. It's funny
Yeah.
because it's happened like more
Yeah.
often than we want to admit.
Yeah,
Um,
it does.
but yeah, in that moment, I'm just like, Lord, like, okay, not my sister now. Like, I get it, I get it. Life happens, but not my sister. So,
Yeah.
what do you need me to do? Like, what do I need to do in order to make sure that doesn't happen? Or death is not the end all be all when it comes to breast cancer. Um, and I didn't really get answer, but still, in that whole time, I was just like stressed and worried. And I think I have a little different perspective than um, I would say some of our other relatives because I was away when this happened. I was
Mhm.
in the Navy, so I couldn't be there. Like, I couldn't
Yeah.
be home. And so I think it was more stressful for me because, well, I don't want to say more stressful for me, but it was stressful for me because, excuse me, I couldn't just get up and come to your house and console you. I couldn't just get up and come to your appointments and things of that nature. Um, and so I was kind of like at a loss in a way. Like, I think I was very emotionally struggling in that moment because I was like, there's so much I want to do, but I can't do it because I'm here. Um, and I do remember being able to come home and I went to an appointment with you. This was after the fact, but I was able to go to an appointment with you and things and come help you. But it was really like heavy on me in a way. Like, I don't want to say it was more heavy than anyone else because I wasn't there the whole time, like taking care of you. And I know mom played an amazing role in being that support and being that whatever you needed in that moment. And so I think I was very guarded in a way, and it really affected me not being able to come help right then and there, like day one, because we've been day one since day one,
Yeah,
So I'm just like,
sure. Four
dang,
flats on a
dang.
Cadillac.
I'm like, dang, I'm all the way in California and like I can't do anything. But
Yeah.
I think it also helped me to change my perspective in a way because it was like you can't be there to help, but you can kind of change your lifestyle. You can change the way you've been doing things. And so one of those things that was like, you don't know what's going to happen with your sister. Like, you're not there to like, the thing about you flatlining, I didn't know that until after the fact. And thank God, because I probably would have been
Yeah.
acting all crazy, like trying to drive a plane myself, trying to get to Kentucky. Like, I'm so glad I didn't know till right after the fact. But it made me change my perspective on the meaning of life. And it sucks that that has to happen for
Yeah.
a lot of us to do that because we've had experiences of people passing away of cancer. And I'd say for a good amount of time, you're like, okay, life is so precious. Like, I want to make sure I live it to the best of my abilities. I fulfill the plan that God has for me, and I do exactly what I'm supposed to do. And I also cherish those around me. Um, but then at some point, you get so caught up in the day to day and just your own world that you forget about those around you. And so I think when things like that happens, which it sucks that it has to be that way, but when things like that happen, you want to cherish every person around you. You want to call more, or you want to text more, or you want to be there as much as possible. Um, and I think for me, just like really just being away, I try my best to. I What do they call it? They call it like FOMO or something. I think that's like the slang for it
Oh
now
yeah.
or something.
Fear
But it's
of
like
missing
fear
out.
of yeah, like fear of
Yeah.
missing out. And so I'm like, being in the military, you sometimes you don't have a choice. Like, you just don't have a choice.
Yeah.
But when I do have that choice, I try to make it more of an effort to be around my family, be around my friends, and showing love and compassion outside of that. But equally, I think it also has pushed me to just appreciate my life even more, because I mean, it could happen to me. God forbid, it could happen to me. Um, but it makes me appreciate the simplest things, the joy and the not being afflicted with pain all the time, because I can't even imagine the pain, because I remember that one time that we had the incident with Brooklyn, and my heart just sunk so hard because you can it's like you want to take the pain from someone, and I'm like, can we split it up? Like, I don't know if I can
I
handle
know.
all
Can
of
we
it,
divvy
but
this up?
can we divvy it up? I can't. I don't know if I can handle all of it, but I'll take a piece just so she doesn't have to suffer so much. And in those moments, you want to be so strong. And I thank God that He's made me to where, at first, I would call it the Navy hardened me, which that's not what it is. But I think God made me like, I would say, stronger, so that when things like that happen, like I can handle being that support system. Like I can handle being that strong person for someone else. Um, and I would say it was a very emotional journey. Like I was going through the trenches, and I've never, because it was my first time experiencing one of my siblings or one of my relatives going through something so detrimental, and I was like away. So it really caused an emotional like roller coaster,
Yeah.
all the way around. But excuse me, God graced me, and He had so much mercy on me during that time. Like, because I know I wasn't acting right. I know that I used it as an excuse, like, well, God, you got my sister hurting right now. So, if you don't want to bargain with me, then I'm just going to do what I do. Like, I'm going to use something else to cope rather than rely on you for guidance and for healing. And because in those moments, it's hard to see. It's really hard to see. But I think in those moments also, it's so important that you keep, the woman with the issue of blood, you keep that in the back or the forefront of your mind, because that's when it's most important. Um, but during this time when you were sick, it was just like, I wasn't even slightly thinking about it. I was just like, Lord, well, if you're not gonna trade with me, then we'll figure it out along the way, right? But I think there's some other things that I learned throughout this journey, or throughout our journey together, with you being sick. But the biggest thing was not to try to bargain with God on what His plan is, what His purpose is.
Yeah. And I can relate so well to that bargaining with God. But the gag is that you make these deals with Him really out of a oh ye of little faith mindset,
Yeah,
because you make these grandiose like gestures like, oh, if
yeah.
you do this, then I'll do this for you. And I could not tell you how far on the floor my mouth was when he did it.
I know.
And
And
he
then
was
you like,
like,
oh, I really gotta. Okay.
I came to collect my this and my that you said
Hmm.
you would give me if I
Yep.
healed you from cancer. You said
Yep.
you would do this, that, and the third.
So
Well,
let's
daughter, you're
go.
healed. So
Run
what's
it.
up? Like,
Run
you're
it.
healed. So what's
Yeah.
good?
Yeah.
And so that it's beautiful but humorous. How
Mhm.
we will,
Mhm.
how we think we can bargain with God when the story is already written. And so we
Mhm.
go and throw these promises in there that maybe we're capable of and maybe we're not
Yep.
capable. But in the end, God knows our heart, and His promise does not change according to our trying to negotiate with Him. And
Yeah.
so it is very humorous because even in that negotiation, His mind was already made up about
Exactly.
healing me. And so there
Exactly.
was no need to go and try to negotiate with Him like, oh,
Yep.
well, if you do this for me. He had already written the story.
Yep.
And so in
That's
hindsight,
crazy. Yeah.
In hindsight, I wish that I would have not so much begged, oh, take the thorn out of my side. And if you remove the thorn, then I'll
Mm-hmm.
do this, that, and I'll do all these gestures.
Yep.
Because I have learned that your walk with God is not, there will be so many people that say, but Lord, Lord, I prophesied in your name and I did good works in your name.
Mm-hmm.
And he will still say, turn away from me. I never knew you. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
And so to think that, then I didn't know. Then I was ignorant to that fact of
Yeah.
like how serving the Lord really works. So
Mm-hmm.
then I was ignorant to that fact and I just simply didn't know. But had I
Yeah.
had that knowledge, I would have understood like, that's not going to get God to do what you want him to do. There'll be so many people that
Exactly.
say, well, I'll say this and that and the third in your name, but the true key to heaven is knowing God. And
Absolutely.
so while I was so busy trying to negotiate with him about the thorn in my side, not many times did I say, teach me how to live with the
Mm-hmm.
thorn. Not that you would
Oh, that's
remove the
real.
thorn from me, but you would teach me how to navigate while the thorn is still there. That you would teach me how to,
Mm-hmm.
in a sense, be comfortable with the thorn until you decide to remove the thorn from my life. And so, in hindsight, that is an attitude that I wish I would have had, but everybody has to go through their own kind of process with God when it comes to trust and belief.
Yeah.
And so I just wish that if I could say anything to anybody that is currently fighting breast cancer, it would be trust in the Lord with all your heart. It would
Mm-hmm.
be to not negotiate with him about the thorn that is afflicting you, but say, God, teach me how to live while cancer plagues my life. Teach me how to still magnify your name before you even heal me. Because in this phase of my life, so many times I said, God, I wish I would have stewarded that season of cancer better.
Yeah.
I wish I would have said
Yeah.
thank you more. And I wish I would have, because you were already preparing to spin the block to heal me. You
Right.
you had
Right.
already prepared that when the doctor gave the diagnosis, you had a
Mm-hmm.
plan. And so I wish that I would have trusted him more. And just like in the scripture, it said, do not be afraid, only believe. But I was
Mm-hmm.
allowing fear of what cancer could do to me to
Yep.
overpower the power of God. And
Mm-hmm.
so, if I could say anything to anyone that is surviving in any illness, it would be not to let that illness or the affliction that you're facing overpower God's healing, because God
Yeah.
has monstrous healing power. Like, there is nothing that he cannot do. And so,
Uh It's
go ahead.
my I was just gonna make a note that my pastor said the other day, um, you trying to negotiate God is you trying to manipulate him. And I was like,
Yeah,
but how there's no way. God already has a set plan for
yeah,
um your life, regardless. Just how you
yeah.
were saying, like regardless, he already has a plan. So why are you trying to manipulate? And when you think of the word manipulation, it's like very negative and very like, but we try it. Why
Yeah.
do we even try it? Like there's no point. And when you think about it and you say it out loud, you like, come on now.
And
You too
I think,
grown in spirit to be trying to do that.
yeah. And well, I think a lot of people don't understand maybe the vulnerability and the desperation
Yeah.
that comes behind affliction. And so
Right.
maybe if you're not aligned with God the proper way that you should be,
Mm-hmm.
even
Mm-hmm.
if you are slightly aligned with him the way that you should be, it's here that you
Yeah.
battle every single day
Mm-hmm.
that you wake up and this disease is plaguing your life. It took
Yeah.
me 2 or 3 years to say it was good that cancer afflicted my body.
Yeah.
It took me 2 years, 2.5, 3 years to figure out in my mind why that was good for me. And
Mm-hmm.
I am so remorseful for not stewarding that season better and for not
Mm-hmm.
praising him in advance for something that he was already going to do. So
Yeah.
I could have been taking the attention that I was spending bargaining with him and saying, well, if you do
Mm-hmm.
this for me, then I'll do this for you. I wish so many times I think back and I wish that I would have just been praising God, that I would have understood
Yeah.
then that it was good that I was afflicted. Because when I tell you that he took that breast cancer and he made the height of my existence, he made it breast cancer the base of it.
Yeah.
The base of the
Yeah.
platform was that I would survive breast cancer. That was
Hmm.
just the beginning. That
Yeah.
was just the beginning of what he would do. But now that I know that God has used that affliction to make me
Hmm.
stronger mentally, to make me more cautious about my health physically, to pay attention and encourage others when they are going through things.
Hmm.
Had I known that he was using it just to power me up, like give me a different power bar, I would have used
Hmm.
that time so much more differently. I just would not have treated that season. I would not have neglected that season the way that I did. And I
Yes.
know that it's hard for people to understand, like, how could you say it is good that breast cancer afflicted you? But
Hmm.
for all of these reasons, because it made me better, it made me appreciate life. And one
Yeah.
thing that it did for me that I could never repay God for is the fact that I know him personally now as the
Yeah.
healer, because we've sat with each other in my affliction and he
Hmm.
has shown me personally that he is a healer. And so now it is my duty unto God to profess how he is a healer, and not to sit down when I see somebody burdened by sickness, not to keep my
Yeah.
mouth closed and say nothing about what I know God to be a healer about.
Hmm.
And so it is something that I wish that I would not have tried to bargain with God about. If I
Hmm.
could say anything pertaining to how that impacted your life,
Yeah.
I wish that I would not have bargained with God, and that I would
Hmm.
have stewarded my thorn a little better. You know what I
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And so moving on, Mo, what are some of the things that you learned because you watched me have breast cancer?
A lot. A lot. I think it hit closer to home just because again, like you were so young when it happened. You still young, don't worry. And and you're my sister. And so um I definitely became more aware, I would
Mm-hmm.
say, because when grandma had it, in my mind, of course, I was young, but I was thinking like, oh, she's older, so that's probably why it hit her hard, and it happened the way it happened. But then when it hit you, I was just like, whoa, like she's right there, a year older than
Yeah.
me, and she's been afflicted with breast cancer. And so one thing that I did learn that's super important for all of us, women and men, is getting regularly checked. And for me specifically, because breast cancer is so prevalent in our lives, it's important to get checked frequently. Um, I know my physician has me getting checked every 6 months. Like, and even if I feel a little bit of something, like I'm going to the doctor because I did a bunch of research after it happened. And I think it's like 2.3 million women are like affected with breast cancer. And I think since 2022 or something like that. But breast cancer is one of the largest killers among women and men as well. I think men get left out a lot, and men don't think of themselves as getting breast cancer, but it can happen to them as well. I
Two
believe
percent
last
actually. 2% of
two
men
percent
are prone to having breast cancer.
Exactly, which is 2% too many. So I think it's just as important to get checked regularly, especially if you have a history of breast cancer. And another thing that I did learn after Neek got breast cancer is they have blood tests that you can do in order to see what genes you have to see you if you have a certain gene that causes certain types of cancers. And so that's something else that I learned about that I didn't know before. And I was able to get that done just to see what types of genes I have. So that is, I think that's one of the big things that I learned is to get checked. Like regardless if you, it don't matter how old you are. I know if it's prevalent in your family, you should start younger. But I'm 31, and so they're like, listen, every 6 months you need to go get checked. Also doing self-examinations. Super easy, super simple. But it's something that is important. I'm not going to demonstrate, but you can go online and you can see how to do it properly because it's very important. Even if you don't have a history of breast cancer in your family, you should still be doing those exams monthly. But that's one thing that's very important that I learned. Another thing is resilience. Resilient, because this girl right here, she is resilient. And it's crazy, but I think God chose her specifically because we always call Neek the pit bull of the family, like because she one thing about her is she gonna fight. And I mean, I don't mean that like physically, but I mean like spiritually and emotionally, and she's gonna fight for what it is that she wants and what it is that God has planned for her. And one thing she did was fight through this. And I can only imagine how difficult that was in that moment because um, she was the first sister to even experience anything like that, or the first one, even in our like family circle, like close circle, to experience something so um, detrimental. But she fought. And granted, I wasn't there on the days. I'm sure she had days where she didn't feel like fighting. She had days where she was like, you know what, like I'm gonna be, and whatever happens, happens. But what I saw and what I experienced is her being resilient. And so when those things, when there's minor things that happen, minor inconveniences in my life that happen, I like to just think about me being resilient in those moments because I'm like, girl, like this is not to compare, things that happen in my life, but to just have a different perspective on things that happen in my life. Because I'm like, this girl literally fought breast cancer. Like, why are you crying about getting a flat tire? Why are you crying about something so small? But I'm just like, I admire that. And nope.
Don't
I
start.
think I'm not.
Sorry, I'm already a little
Look,
misty.
I'm not,
I keep
but
checking my ducks.
look, let me make sure my ducks are good. Let me make sure my ducks are good. Listen, this is only day one. We got a couple weeks to go, so it's all good. But no matter how difficult it was, the strength and the compassion she still had for other people. But I think a lot of that, in the moment, she probably didn't see it, but a lot of that was because her foundation built on Christ was growing in that moment. It was growing. He was building her up to make her who she is now. Um, and I think that affliction just created a whole different perspective in her mind as well as those around her. And she didn't know in that moment, I'm sure, like she didn't know that her struggling and being tired and being in pain um, was us seeing her as being resilient. Like in that moment, she probably felt, so weak, but us on the those looking in, we saw that as resilience. We saw that as strength. And I thank God that, it it gave me more courage. It gave me more strength. Even day to day, or, not even just with physical things that happen, or, things that sickness and things like that, but every day, like things with work, things with finances, things with like that resilience pushed out to those around her. Um, and another thing is that it taught me what I would say is the value of having a support system, even not being the one going through it, but having those friends and those family members
Um,
around you. Because, like Neek said in the beginning, like a lot of people forget about those that are the family members or the friends of those going through it. They need support as well. From my perspective, not nearly as much, but I would say that having those people around you to push you up, to lift you up so that you can lift up that family member and that friend. I know there's many times, again, me being away where I just wanted to be there so bad, but there was no way that I could be there. But I had friends around me, even a friend that experienced a relative going through the same thing, and thank God they made it through. But having someone to encourage you and to kind of just push you forward and to help you continue out through your day to day, because when something like that happens, that's all you think about.
yeah,
Like, you're not
literally
in pain.
today. Yeah,
Literally, that's all you
yeah,
think about. And it's like, oh man, like there's what can I do to help this person? And I think that I learned that the only way that I could help you is to, be strong when I'm around you or when I'm speaking with you. But also just continue doing what I'm doing, like continue encouraging people, continue supporting other people, but to not sit in misery and not sit in, or to not have that perspective of, oh, she has breast cancer, like it's done, like, but to have faith as well, equally, like you, or to even try to have more faith in you because you're the one being in pain, you're the one laying there not able to do what you're used to do because you were outside of your norm, your complete norm. But I would say those are the two biggest things I learned, and just to not take for granted the health that we have, because we do, and I think sometimes I still do that, and I try my best not to. That's why I think fitness and taking care of your body is so important, but just being thankful for breathing, having breath in your body.
yeah. And that, that's an interesting perspective to hear, because you never know what your family members are thinking or going through, because they are ultra focused on you getting better. And
Yeah,
so
yeah.
you really don't get to hear. Of course, there's many encouragements from my family around the
Mhm.
clock. There was always somebody there encouraging me, but it's interesting to see the perspective from this side, like from the person who has
Yeah,
it versus how it affected the people around me. And
because you
so,
probably typically people probably typically don't ever hear that perspective.
yeah, yeah. And so it's
Excuse me.
very interesting, because at no point in my journey did I think, oh, my family thinks I'm
Excuse
resilient.
me.
Or like, it was more
Yeah.
like, oh my gosh, like I'm being a burden. Like I
Yeah.
have to rely
Yeah.
on them for everything. And I have
Yeah.
every time I need to use the bathroom, I have to call somebody. And every time I need to shower,
Yeah.
I got to call somebody. And every
Yeah.
time my kids need something, I have to call somebody to help
Uh-huh.
me. So in my mind, it was like, dang, I'm being such a burden because I need
Yeah.
somebody's help with everything. Never thinking in my mind that these are God ordained people that He
Absolutely.
meticulously made me family members
Yep.
to, so that
Yep.
they would be prepared for a time such as this. Because I
Mhm.
will forever say that I have never seen, this is probably the part that I'll never stop crying about, is the way that my family, like, literally assembled an army of
Yeah.
people around the clock. That's something I'll never stop crying about, because the way that my family showed up for me, like, you're not alone, baby.
Yeah.
Like, you may have to spend a couple nights crying with Jesus, but baby, you're not alone.
Yeah.
That they strategically set up a system so that
Mhm.
somebody would be with me. I mean, there was
Yeah.
not any excuses. Work wasn't an
Crazy.
excuse. People
Mhm.
having to do things weren't an excuse. And so God definitely changed my perspective on my family.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas I used to feel like a black sheep, like an outsider.
Yeah.
One of the blessings of surviving cancer was that God showed me the true heart posture of all of my family. That you were
Mm-hmm.
never alone, you were never not wanted. They've
Yeah.
always loved you. And so I seen that from so many different avenues that it
Mm-hmm.
still tears me up, like the way that continuous love poured in
Yeah.
during that journey. It brings me unspeakable joy. And it brings me to tears every time I think about the way that you guys just sacrificed, like so
Yeah.
much time. So much money. Mom and dad sacrificed so much money. Grandma and
Mm-hmm.
granddaddy sacrificed so much money
Oh, they got
just to be
money.
sure I was okay. Evangelist Pamela made sure that my electric bill was taken care of, my water bill, one of the two. I think it might have been both. But anyway, she
Yeah.
assumed the responsibility for those two bills without me saying anything. And so the
Mm-hmm.
way that God covered me, it's the way that He covered me that still rocks my socks to this day. The
Every
way
side too.
anything that I could think of. It's like he
Yeah.
already had somebody, ahead of me,
Yep.
trying to make sure that that was good, the thing that I was concerned about. And
Mm-hmm.
so it is very interesting to hear that perspective of resilience, because I didn't see that until now.
Mm-hmm.
That maybe this was God's way of showing my family resilience, and if it had to
Yeah.
be through me, then so be it. And I say
Yeah.
that most humbly, because it's all because of God. It's not
Mm-hmm.
anything, I did nothing to deserve to be, healed from cancer. It wasn't
Yeah.
anything that I did. Even the platform that God has put me on, I'm here humbly. And I understand that this platform is for me to attest to who God is, and the
Yeah.
healing powers of Jesus Christ as well. And the power that Jesus Christ, his son, also possesses. And so
Mm-hmm.
I want to be sure not to overshadow his son, because it is because of his son that we have access to him.
Yep.
And so, Mo, I just want to ask you one last question before
Uh-huh.
we wrap up our first episode of Pink Sundays. And so, could you please tell us just a little bit about how watching God heal me from breast cancer affected the way that you see God as a healer?
Yeah, for sure. Um, so again, initially when you were first diagnosed, I would say I was overwhelmed. I was fearful, because I was just uncertain about, what was going to happen to you and whether God was going to intervene, which it sounds so crazy not right now to even say, but just to think of it that way. And I think there was just moments of doubt and moments of just complete worry, not partially from experience, but just not being grounded in what I know and who I know God to be. Um, and I think as I witnessed your journey and you going through treatments and that resilience factor in and all, I could see God's hand in every single bit of it. Like there's no way that that could have been survived. You could have survived without God's hand in that. And I think your healing was about more than just being physically healed. And I see you now, even through that journey, and then seeing you now, it has taught me that sometimes, or a lot of the times, or sometimes, I would say that God's healing doesn't really always come when you want it and the way that you expect it to be. Um, but seeing your journey and seeing you go through that, it's showed me how to have faith in God and how to trust Him a little bit more and to realize healing is not just about the physical at all. And I could see from your experience, it was a lot about you learning what peace is and you sharing with others what peace is and what hope looks like and your faith being restored and seeing you go through that journey helped for my faith to be restored. And I think it deepened my relationship with Christ as well as it just showed me how I could be healed in ways that aren't even just physical. Like I can be healed spiritually and emotionally and from other different traumas. Like this is traumatic for you, but it also showed me that I could be healed from traumas that I had growing up or, just being in the Navy, different traumas that come along with it. Um, and I would say that now that my faith and my trust in Christ and healing is definitely grown. But I also know that it's not always going to look like how I want it to look like. It's not always going to be when I want it to be. I can't set a timeline on things, and I think I really struggled with uh, how our father passing away and our grandmother passing away. I struggled with um, seeing the outcome as being positive. I struggled with having faith in Christ to heal you, but after seeing that healing, um, it's just made me have more faith in God. I would say for sure.
Yeah. And I will say that that is one of the greatest things that I think cancer taught me is that the healer, the
Yeah,
way maker. You may
yeah,
think that he is far from you, but you know him. And
yeah.
so that is one thing that really stuck with me throughout my post cancer journey.
Mhm.
Just with walking with God and getting to know him as just an individual, not for what
Mhm.
anybody's told me, but I love how God was like, you're going to get to know me for yourself. Come
Right.
hell or high water, you're going
Yeah.
to know me. If you speak of me as the healer, you will know because I
Mhm.
have healed you. You will have testimony of how I healed you of sickness. If you are going to testify to this, you will have literal proof. And so now
Mhm.
I pray my prayer is that there is no one that is attached to me that won't understand that God is a healer because of
Mhm.
what they've seen me go through and what they've
Yeah.
seen cancer try to do to me and how the
Mhm.
hand of God just swooped down and canceled the assignment of the enemy when the enemy thought he
Indeed.
had me by cancer. And I say this all the time when I am talking about my cancer journey because I want everybody to know how real it was. It
Mhm.
was not just grins and giggles and me like, oh, Jesus is good at that I was afflicted and I can't wait
Mm-mm.
till this is over. But if it's not over, that's okay too, Lord. It was not that. When I tell you the enemy tried me with addiction to the painkillers that they were giving
Mhm.
me, I got to a point where I was so desperate to not be in pain anymore that I was like, I'll just start taking extra pills so I
Mhm.
don't have to be awake. Like, if I'm not awake, I can't feel the pain.
Mm.
And so
That's
the
right.
way that God sent mom to intercede, and she was like, I don't know if she could smell the enemy
Mhm.
prowling around or what, but she had a system for my pills and she would count
Uh-huh.
my pills and make sure, and she would give my pills to my older sister and make sure that I wasn't. And so I didn't have any fight for it because I knew what I was trying to do. I knew the
Mhm.
hold that the enemy had on my mind, but I didn't have the strength to tell somebody like I
Yeah.
want to die. Like I didn't have the strength to tell my mom
Yeah.
that. And so the enemy used that to try to get me addicted to Oxycontin. And so,
Mhm.
as well as hydrocodone, because we were back and forth between the two, Oxycontin, hydrocodone, and it was bad because I just wasn't like the effects of painkillers or of
Mhm.
narcotics. When you take those kinds of things, you're like woozy, you're no good, you
Yeah.
can't do anything, you almost immediately fall asleep. So after that attack didn't work, I experienced the enemy trying to attack me with alcohol. Like
Mhm.
he wanted, like it was like as soon as I wake up, I would maybe drink coffee, maybe not, but I would go get wine. and I would just drink and drink because I wanted to feel something, but I couldn't feel
Yeah.
anything except for pain. Pain is the only
Yeah.
thing that I could feel. And so I believed that if I just keep drinking and I pass out, then again, I won't have to feel that pain. So I can't put into words how I watched God say, nope, 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 that's not, you're going to work this thorn. You're going to work this thorn, baby. That's not going to work. You know, there were so many ways that the enemy tried to keep me bound in sickness. There were so many ways that he tried to attack my mind when I did have cancer. And I thank God. It's not just about being healed from breast cancer. It's about those times that he wouldn't let me, that he silenced the suicidal thoughts that were in my mind because I was in excruciating pain. It's about those times that I weep to him in the wee hours of the morning because I was in pain and he comforted me. So it goes way further than breast cancer. It goes way further than sickness as an affliction. It goes to mental affliction as well. Being sick mentally, to the point where you don't know how to get back to God, but you know that he's there. And so cancer has taught me that there is nothing that is too hard for God. And every single year during Pink Sundays, I will continue to be a testament to there is nothing too hard for God. I am so thankful to be a 4-year survivor. That still tears me up a little bit. I'm so just thankful to be healthy and alive and well. Yesterday, I completed a Spartan race, which is a little less than 5 miles, 20 obstacles, very intense boot camp, military boot camp style training. But we did it in a race, and it was just so surreal to 4 years ago have been in a place where I was so sick and couldn't help myself to being a testament now to doing things like, you know, like a 3 or 4 mile run or whatever, and, you know, just participating in good health in that race. And so I am very thankful that God saw fit to heal me from that disease that tried to plague my life and the lives of others around me, tried to influence the way that they would be impacted in a negative way. So I am so thankful that God covered myself and my family. I'm so thankful that I had such a beautiful support system to be there for me and to encourage me. Mo, mom, dad, all the family, I cannot thank you guys enough. Big hearts to you all. Big hearts. Oh, you got a heart. I didn't get it.
I don't know how that did happen,
I don't know
but
how
that's
we
cool.
did that, but it was right on time. But I cannot thank you guys enough. I will continue to give my highest gratitude just to my family and my support system and everybody who was there rooting me on, praying for me, and fighting for me. 4 years later, I still have not forgotten. It carries me and it blesses my soul how God sent such a mighty army of people to support me. And so if you are seeing this tonight and you find yourself suffering from a breast cancer diagnosis, you find yourself in the height of breast cancer, maybe you're having a double mastectomy, maybe you're keeping one, or maybe you're going flat, whatever the cases may be, God is in control. God is the author. He is the beginning and the end. He is the author of the finishing statement. And so until God says it is done, it is not done. Trust God for your healing. Trust God for deliverance. Trust God for mental clarity, because all of these things are so important in getting well and staying a survivor. And so even if I had to do it all again, I would say it is good that cancer did afflict my life because it taught me so much about who God is and what he does. I'm just so grateful again to be here for year number 4 of my surviving journey. I'm just so very thankful that we get to make Pink Sundays happen. And so guys, until next week, We are really excited to have our little sister Alexis on next week.
Mm-hmm.
She is my sister, and as you guys know, I'm a 4-year survivor, but she also has a friend that survived breast cancer as well. And so she's kind of has two totally different perspectives as a friend and as a sister. And so we are so excited to have Alexis on next week. Following that will be Miss Raquel Randolph, whose mother unfortunately did not survive, but we are here to support her and to encourage her and to also hear her perspective on breast cancer as it pertains to being impacted as well by family members and support systems. And so, guys, until next week, don't forget, God is good. There is nothing too hard for God. Your faith can move mountains. Until our next Pink Sunday episode, you all stay prayed up and be